Wing Chun Kung Fu is supposed to be one of the most effective martial arts for self-defense.
Wing Chun, inside the cage, like it works.
I'm going to be trying to test just how effective Kung Fu really is. So, to put this to the test in the best way I know how, I'm going to throw myself in the deep end with these 3 simple steps. 1. Have a sparring round with a Wing Chun instructor on day 1 with absolutely 0 Kung Fu experience. 2. Put myself through 30 hours of rigorous training. And 3. Jump back in the ring with that same instructor to test how much progress I've made and see how effective Kung Fu can be in defending myself. And so, day 1 testing begun. I had a quick pre-match debrief.
You're the average person on the street, never done any self-defense.
Yeah.
How do I handle someone who just come in and start throwing swings at you?
Yeah. Should I put the guards on, do you think? Or? Yeah. So I suited up and got ready for my first ever Kung Fu sparring match. Oh, fuck. It's tiring. Even like, what is that, like a minute or something?
So I could see from that sparring session just there, you've got some concept of guard, which is really good. In Wing Chun, we have a guard like this, which we use to control our center line. And what that forces our opponent to do is to either go over the top or underneath. Wing Chun's very direct. One of its principles is directness. So that's why the center line punch, if you've seen any of the Wing Chun movies, the Ip Man series, you can see he does a lot of very fast punches down the center line.
Just straight down. And so we got straight into the basics of Kung Fu.
So right now we're going to go through the Wing Chun stance and guard. So I'm going to teach you how to stand and hold your hands in the guard. We're going to practice some center line punching. Basically the Wing Chun stance and guard, it's a very balanced stance. It's quite a neutral stance, which allows us to move forwards, backwards, to pivot very quickly. The reason why we have the hands like this is because it gives us a little bit of a greater surface area to use to deflect our strike. She's rolling her strikes up to deflect his
that was really quick.
Deflect his attacks.
So the premise of that was that she's blocking but also attacking at the same time?
Attacking at the same time. So every time your opponent throws a hit at you, that is an opportunity for you to take the lead, to actually take control of the situation by both defending yourself and hitting them at the same time. Wing Chun punch down the center line. So generally, as I was saying before, use the closest weapon to the target. So my punch, I'm punching down the center. So the equal and opposite force is supported by my center of mass. Tensing up, the equal and opposite force hits the point of tension in my body and can knock me back. If I relax and keep everything nice and loose, then I can expand through.
Wow, okay.
All right.
Time for me to try?
Let's have a look.
Oh God.
Now, in terms of the way that you focus your mind, don't look here. I want you to look, imagine you can see my hand. I'm going to put it behind Instructor Cadmus. I want you to try and punch my hand through the target. That's the way, all the way, that's it. So if you want to send multiple punches towards your opponent, rather than swinging back and forth like this, just keeping the hands down the center line like this. Stride through Instructor Cadmus down the line. Yeah, that's it, keep it coming, down the line. Move your whole body in. Yeah, that's better. Yeah. Now this time, I want you to try and keep your shoulders and hips facing Instructor Cadmus. That's the way. A little bit more efficient with your punching movements. That's the way. Now move your body in more. Really move in through here. That's it. Down the line. Move in, move in, move in. That's it. Down the line. That's the way. That's better. That was better? Yeah.
Okay, cool.
That's it.
Progress. Yeah, okay, so that was like a little overview, I guess, of Wing Chun Kung Fu. So we did my sparring session to start with, and we tested my current ability, which is zilch. We went into some of the theory of Kung Fu, and I learned a little bit more about Kung Fu. And then from there, we were doing some of the very basic sort of fundamental movements. And I'm actually quite excited to like dive deeper into this. The next day was the beginning of a very intensive week. I was thrown into some seriously full days of learning, sometimes training for 6 to 7 hours without much rest. It was full on and it was exhausting.
But slowly, bit by bit, I learned the very basic fundamentals of Wing Chun's self-defense.
Okay, so I'm going to be teaching you how to do one of Wing Chun's most basic fundamental defenses. We call this the Dai Sao and punch. Essentially, from your guard, if someone attacks you over your top, either your top left or top right corner, we're going to be rolling our structure from underneath to redirect their strike, mirroring the angle of their attack so they can't slip a strike around our guard, whilst punching down the centre line at the same time.
So I'm not
Keep the wrist on
pressing,
centre.
I'm just
You're
rolling.
Rolling, yep, rolling straight up. Now try and aim that to my head. That's it. Because when you aim it to my head, that's my centre of mass. You attack my centre of mass, you destabilise me, you take my grounding away, and it then becomes much more difficult for me to impart force into you. So you're going to roll one up while you punch down the centre line at the same time, yep.
And not surprisingly, it was one thing watching it and another thing putting it into practice.
Yeah, now you're closing the wrong fist.
I'm hopeless.
Nah,
Okay,
it's all right.
well, I think I get the...
You're doing well, you're doing well. That's the way.
It's fortunate that I know exactly what you're going to do. Because otherwise I'd be fucked. I've got a lot to learn.
So, generally speaking, kick, maybe step in, knee strike, punch. Now I want you to be aiming to kick my hand. That's the way, yeah, good. So you don't want to stop on the target, you want to follow through. Let it go, that was a good one. That's better.
1, 6, 7.
Good, move in, straight down the line. That's it, let it go, swing it out. Kick, punch. There, that's it.
As the days went by, I learned a lot about Kung Fu. I learned that this martial art wasn't about showing off, but instead was centered around speed and effectiveness. Direct, deliberate moves to try and totally extinguish the threat. I learned that power didn't necessarily need to come from tensing up and swinging wildly, but instead could be generated with almost total relaxation. And I learned all of this whilst trying not to become overwhelmed with the sheer volume of new information.
Unfortunately, being the goose that I am, I got basically my knee direct impact with another person's knee. Fucked my knee. And it got me right in the spot where it's just like so painful. It's such a short challenge and I can't afford to take any time out.
On your feet, that's it, good. Yep. So rather than getting caught up close range with his attacker, he's identifying his opportunity to move in, control the weapon, and hit, and then move back.
Right, okay.
So step, double foot sao, side slash.
It's one thing visualizing it though, and it's another thing putting it into practice. It's going to be so messy. Watch me.
That's it, back off. Good one. Yeah, that's the way. Try not to drop your guard though. Try to keep your hands
Is that
up.
hurting your arms as well?
This was actually really painful. After the first couple of days, I had bruises all along the bony part of both of my forearms. And doing this sort of blocking movement would mean my forearm would clash directly with the opponent's, hitting right on the bruised bone. I guess this is what I signed up for.
That's better, that's it, yeah, good, that's the way.
I feel like this is going to be a martial art that I need to spend years on perfecting.
And so I continued to train multiple times a day, every day, soaking in as much theory and practice as I possibly could.
Yeah, much better.
All right, we arrived. Final day of Kung Fu. I'm going to be doing sparring again like I did on day one with instructor Scott. We're going to try and match the same intensity that he came at me with on day one. And the goal will be to see if I can use my Wing Chun defenses, overpower instructor Scott, and defend myself.
So the challenge was simple. Try to defend myself and overpower instructor Scott's attacks, using the skills I'd learned from the past 30 hours of training.
And time. And time. And time.
Thanks, man. That was a bit better than day one.
Absolutely, you did well. Yeah.
Thanks. That was an interesting challenge. I learned a lot about Kung Fu and the concepts of Kung Fu and the philosophy behind Wing Chun, which I thought was really interesting. In terms of my progress, I think I was definitely more confident than day one. And I certainly tried to utilize the skills I'd learned, but I felt a little bit disappointed with my final testing. I felt a bit messy with my defenses, and I'm not sure I was able to put my progress to the test very effectively. I guess I felt more confident going into the final sparring match, so perhaps the instructor was hesitant to attack me with the same intensity. And in terms of testing Kung Fu's effectiveness, because the instructor's attacks felt less intense, and I guess understandably not exactly like a real life situation, I think it's hard for me to judge how effective my progress actually was. Then again, I was of course only training for 30 hours over 7 days, which is such a short period of time. So to answer the question, is it effective? I would say it certainly has the potential to be effective, especially with hours of training and instinct building movements. And like any martial art, having experience in a self-defense system would always be more effective than having no experience. But I'm curious to hear how effective you guys think Wing Chun Kung Fu is. And I'm really grateful to the International Wing Chun Academy in Sydney for bringing me in and coaching me over the past 7 days. See you guys in the next video.